2011, his campaign played a major role in the ban of plastic bags in Kenya. You will agree with me that Kenya presently has the strictest regulation on plastic bag pollution globally. Today, he continues to raise awareness and advocate for better management of plastic waste. We only have an hour for this program. James will make his presentation titled "The Role of Civil Society in Fighting Plastic Pollution," after which we have our question and answer section. Please be informed that this webinar will be recorded for academic purposes only. Our YouTube channel is now active and you can watch this presentation. Now, let's join John as he gives his talk. John, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Oluini. I thank you for this opportunity to speak about the role of civil society in fighting plastic pollution. My name is James Wakibia, and I'm an activist and journalist based in Kenya. And as usual, less plastic is fantastic. And I hope it is fantastic in your life too. Allow me to share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, you can see my screen. First of all, I'll start with facts. The facts many people know, but it's good to highlight them. According to a study by World Economic Forum, by 2050, our oceans will have more plastic than fish. And that's worrying. And our rivers and oceans are choking from plastic pollution. Our air, water, and food is contaminated with microplastic, and it's becoming a public health concern. And to effectively solve this problem, we need to act together as civil society, communities, governments, industry players. Everyone must be involved. And I repeat, everyone must be involved. Another study by Ellen MacArthur Foundation reveals that plastic production is expected to double in the next 20 years. My son is 4 years old, and in 20 years, he will be 24 years old. And I wonder what kind of environment he will be living in. And I worry that if I don't do anything today, or if we don't do anything today, his life may not be as good as mine. As profits from oil in the transport industry plummet due to a shift to clean energy sources, there has been an increase in production of plastics to fill the gap, and more new plastics which continue being produced are posing a great challenge. And with no sufficient infrastructure to recycle plastics, to recycle recyclable plastics, and the increase in production of single-use plastics, plastic in the environment is growing and is going to be a global problem. Civil society is the engine that can trigger a societal response to decrease plastic pollution, and they can contribute this through working with the local communities on interventions to fight plastic pollution. Civil society can work with the local community to amplify their work through available platforms. In my campaigns, I have used the social media, I've used the mainstream media, I've used any available platform to highlight and to amplify what others are doing, what the communities are doing in war against plastic pollution. Civil society has a very good working relationship with the media, since they work about the well-being of the society. And of course, I always say civil society and the mainstream media work together for the good of the society. The mainstream media is indeed an extension of the civil society. And efforts by communities to fight this problem needs to be amplified by both local and international media. And civil society can be the bridge between these two medias. I have worked with the mainstream media, both local and international level, at raising the awareness and bringing communities together to ensure that they are heard far and wide. The media plays a role of raising awareness, and through small efforts at grassroots level by communities, people from different corners of the world will be inspired and bigger change will be seen. You can think about something like a ripple effect. If my community down here is doing something and it is highlighted by the media, by local media, by international media, a community possibly far away, say in Cambodia or in somewhere in Brazil or even in South Africa, will see and will feel inspired and change will be seen. Civil society can champion for rights of who are promoting circular economy through recycling of plastics, like the waste pickers. And you know, the waste pickers are the backbone of circular economy. And without them, circular economy will remain a buzzword as it is today. Somebody said circular economy has been used a lot by petrochemical industries and plastic companies just to pass the message of greenwashing, PR, and not actually the real meaning of circular economy. We want circular economy to work from grassroots level going upwards by supporting those who are engaged in getting the plastics out of the environment, putting it into circular economy so that we give value to waste so that it can generate income and jobs. If civil society can mobilize support from stakeholders, innovative solutions could be identified to improve collection and recycling systems. This picture in front of you here is journalists documenting plastic pollution at a river in Nakuru. The river is called River Njoro. I have highlighted the pollution in this river for the last, I think, 5 years now. And with support of the media, people are able to understand the impact of plastic pollution. People are able to know what is going on in our rivers because these plastics are not meant to be in the rivers. They're supposed to be in a recycling, to be recycled. They're supposed to be given value. And through working with the media, this can be achieved. In the picture on my left, it's a community I was working with in Nairobi, cleaning up a river by the name Ruaka River. We collected lots of plastics. And the bad thing with cleaning up a river is that today you clean it, tomorrow the same problem is there. But we cannot tire. We must continue working with local communities at cleaning up these rivers to bring change. And I always say, cleaning up alone may not bring much impact, but cleaning up, it's like killing two birds with one stone, because at one moment you're cleaning up the river, and also you're also helping raise awareness, either through those people who are cleaning up the river, or those people who will see the pictures of a river being cleaned up. In this other picture shared by United Nations Kenya, it is a plastic partnership project. And this picture has just been exhibited by the UN in Switzerland. And they were highlighting the impact of plastics in the environment and in our rivers. It is a picture that I shot some time ago, and which I continually use every day to raise awareness of plastic pollution. Civil society can collaborate with just a moment. One moment, please. Yeah, civil society can collaborate with scientists, to bring change, using research findings to advocate for policy change. For example, the need for extended producer responsibility and promotion of circular economy. That is a way, the research can help bring out this and support policy change. Civil society can use research findings to petition governments to enact bans on very problematic single-use plastics. In my case, I have relied heavily on scientific findings in my campaigns. There is no one time I talked just from my own opinion. I have used scientific findings to tell people what is going on and what needs to be done. Civil society can use research findings to raise awareness and educate communities to better address the issues of plastic pollution through reuse, recycle, and reducing consumption of unnecessary plastics. You can also use research to compare petrochemical industry, those people who are producing plastics, to design better products with lower environmental impacts. It is research from you scientists that is helping us with knowledge of understanding that these plastics, the way they are made, they are single use, and the additives they have that can be harmful to our bodies and to the environment. And through your researches, we can compare and put petrochemical industry to task to better design their products in a way that their products will either be easily recyclable or can biodegrade and not harm the environment. Early this year, we worked with an organization called the Flip-Floppy. And the Flip-Floppy is indeed a boat that was made from plastic waste collected in the Indian Ocean in 2019. And it is successfully sailed from Lamu, Kenya to Zanzibar, Tanzania, a 500-kilometer journey raising awareness about marine plastic pollution. And this year, Flip-Floppy expedition went, upstream. It came to the mainland where plastic waste that ends up in the ocean originates. And we had a Lake Victoria expedition, which supported microplastic research, both for deep and surface water sampling. And we were working with a Tanzanian microplastic researcher by the name of Bahati Mayoma, who got a lot of support, from the expedition. And with the cost of running a microplastic study being exorbitantly high, it proved that civil society organizations can collaborate with scientists to do studies that will benefit mankind. Other areas that civil society can support research studies is by directly financing them and providing other resources. For example, the Flip-Floppy expedition provided means of transport and a very conducive environment for Bahati Mayoma, the scientist, to do his microplastic study in Lake Victoria. And we are looking forward to his findings, which will tell us the extent of microplastic pollution in Lake Victoria. We hope it's going to be soon, because sometimes it can take some long time before these studies are out, but we're hoping it's coming soon. Civil society organization can also help in breaking down hard to understand scientific language. Use people, scientists have your own kind of jargons that laymen like me cannot understand, and therefore it is important that we collaborate, scientists and civil society. We sit down together and help break down hard to understand scientific language for common men, for laymen to understand, so that it is beneficial to their lives, and so that they also understand what you guys are doing. And using social media, which civil society is a master in doing, we can share out these findings to the general public. On my left in this picture, we see Bahati Mayoma setting up a Vandon water sampler. I'm very happy now that I know what a Vandon is, and I was also able to work with it. Here he is setting up a Vandon water sampler during the Lake Victoria expedition in Lake Victoria. And on my left, we see flip-floppy boat assistant captain helping the scientist, dip the sampler into the water. That shows you the conducive environment the scientist was working. Imagine being helped by a boat assistant captain to do his research. It was an amazing experience. And these are things that civil society can collaborate with scientists. Another way that we can, as civil society, can collaborate with government action in addressing plastic pollution is by supporting implementation of bans and other policy measures to curb plastic pollution. Kenya banned plastic bags in 2017, and we have had a big challenge in the implementation of the ban because of our porous borders. Our neighbors, Uganda and Tanzania, have not banned plastic bags. We therefore have a very big problem. And also the community sometimes doesn't understand the meaning of or the reason behind banning of plastic bags. Therefore, it is important that the civil society works with the government, first of all, to create awareness and educate the community to understand the need to keep our environment clean and to tell them why it is important that the ban was brought. It is also very important that civil society acts as whistleblowers by exposing polluters and demanding prosecution of flauters of the law through such things as plastic audits, as Break Free from Plastic has been doing. Because with the plastic audits, like they have been done by Break Free from Plastics, we are able to know the biggest polluters, and therefore, even naming them publicly, they feel ashamed, and hopefully they can change. Civil society can continually keep reminding the government of the right to clean and sanitary environment. This is a right in most countries, and I think all countries have such kind of a right. Always keeping the government on the toes and telling them that we have a right to a clean and sanitary environment. We can also work with the government and government agencies in drafting policies to curb plastic pollution through supporting government initiatives in war against plastic pollution through such things as public awareness and education. And something very important that civil society does is participating in public participations. Here before anything, either we have budgetary meetings, people or civil society attends those meetings and helps, bring out the narrative of increasing budgetary allocations in protection of the environment. Our governments are made of politicians, and politicians want to do things that people see. So they build roads, they build hospitals, they do all these infrastructure projects, but forget environmental conservation because it's not something that people see. But having civil society members in public participations, these things can be shared out and the government may understand the reason and the need to keep our environment clean by increasing budgetary allocations. Civil society can work at or collaborate with petrochemical industry. We don't need just to pinpoint the problem, but civil society can work at influencing change through such programs as or through petrochemical industries, channeling back the profits they make to local communities to manage plastic waste in the environment. They should not just be producers, but responsible producers. They could do this by supporting cleanups, recycling initiatives, and other projects that are meant to conserve the environment. Plastic producing companies should not just be bystanders to a problem they created. To ensure most of their plastics don't end up harming the environment, plastic producing companies should design products with lower environmental impacts, as I have said before. And then should also think about the end of life of their products and not merely being producers. And to put them to task, of course, it's always good to put them to task of being responsible producers. The civil society expose their greenwashing techniques and fraud recycling narratives. Civil society can also work with international organizations, especially the UN. This is through supporting international frameworks to curb plastic pollution, like the Basel Convention on Control of Transboundary Movement of Plastics. The Basel Convention tries to stop or control transboundary movement of plastics. And the civil society can help support such kind of initiatives or from international organizations. They can do that by also advocating for more powerful global treaties. We have we have a big problem with plastic now, and because it's a global problem, environmentalists, civil societies are calling out for a global treaty to manage plastic waste. And I think from a global level, it will be more powerful, and most governments will agree and sign into such treaties to safeguard the environment. We can also partner with the United Nations in awareness programs. Just recently, as I have just mentioned, my picture was used by the UN in a project on plastic partnership to raise awareness on plastic pollution. And to close, I close with a quote by an American cultural anthropologist, Margaret Mead, who said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Thank you.
Thank you very much, James, for the time and for the wonderful presentation. I will ask people to write down their questions for James. Once you signify, you can just signify. Oli will bring you up for you to ask your question so that we can have a good interaction. But while we're waiting for questions from our audience, from our attendees, James, I want to ask concerning your collaboration with researchers, which is one of the reasons why we think you should be on this platform. I know that you've been doing a lot, to help researchers in projecting some of the things that they are doing. But is it also possible, for, the media to be able to compel funding organizations to fund researches that, related to plastic pollutions? Because there are some funding organizations that still don't have the right awareness as far as plastic pollution is concerned. They actually want to make impact, but how to go about it, they don't really know, especially, looking at the peculiarity of our environment. So is there anything you are doing as a person or the media are doing? I know that Kenya media has been so wonderful. I must say that, yeah. I published a paper late last year, early this year, the first paper to report microplastic particles in table salts in Africa. We assess table salt in about 8 countries in Africa. And just, I think 3 days after the paper was published, a journalist in Kenya contacted me that he would like to put it on the mainstream. And within a week, I discovered that a lot of correspondents start to come in. And even up to now, I've not even seen a single media house in my country, bringing it to the fore. So I must really appreciate that. So I just want to know if there is any effort or is there any plan that you are doing to make sure that funding organizations understand that there are researchers in microplastic research in Africa, and they are really willing, to unveil, the impact of plastic pollution in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. First of all, I'm very happy to hear that your paper was taken up by a journalist in Kenya. I think Kenyans have become very conscious about what is happening in the environment, beginning with our government, and I think it's because of a long time fighting for environmental change. We have people like Wangari Maathai, who have really been pushed for environmental conservation, fighting pollution, protection of our forest. I think that is something that has created a lot of consciousness with our people, even at government level, that the government would come in and ban plastic bags. And 2 years later, they would go ahead and ban single-use plastics from all their protected areas. And so that tells you how conscious we are about the environment. And of course, I wouldn't underestimate my also as an environmentalist. So to answer your question, it's a very good question about whether we are working or I'm working with on issues of bringing funding for scientists to do studies. At my level, I have not been able to do that, but I just recently registered my own organization, and I am looking forward in future to be able to work with scientists, because I need scientific evidence. I need more researches so that I can convince people of what I'm talking about, because I have been highlighting the issue of plastic pollution for the longest time. And I need what you are doing to be able to tell our people, to tell the government that plastic is harming the environment, plastic is harming us, plastic is harming our wildlife. But as I have mentioned before, we worked with the Bahati Mayoma from Tanzania, a microplastic researcher, and he was doing a study on the extent of microplastic pollution in Lake Victoria, and he was supported by Free Floppy organization. And the Free Floppy organization was also supported partly by the French Development Agency. That means it's quite powerful, and the message is it's getting out. So I think going forward, scientists will be able to work more to get the support they need to do these studies, because there is still much more that needs to be done.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, I can see you raising your hand up. Go ahead.
I did have a question, but I see Henk has just asked a question in the Q&A section. So I will ask his question first, and then we can come back to my question.
Okay.
So Henk has said civil society is an important pressure for change. How do you see the role of arts and culture in advancing those efforts?
I think you got lost. Would you mind do that again?
So he's asking about, yes, civil society is important for change, and what are your thoughts on arts and culture to advance these efforts?
Oh, that's an amazing question. I think we have to use everything that is available to, to bring about this change that we have been campaigning for. We are using arts and culture. There is an organization in Kenya run by a famous musician called Giuliani that is using plastic to make art. They recycle plastic, they make art, they make ornaments. And through that, and art is also linked with culture. So through arts, they are trying to influence change, trying to influence people's culture, at how they look at the environment. So basically, we have to use everything at our disposal to highlight the environmental degradation from plastic pollution.
Thank you so much. So I've also got a question. Thank you so much for that. You really gave us a clear picture of the role that civil society can and how they can interact with each person. So as a scientist, what's your advice on who to contact as your first points of call if you're wanting to engage with bringing civil society into research? For example, do you go to schools or NGO groups, or is there any advice that you can give us if we haven't worked with civil society in that way?
I think it will be easier, first of all, going to civil societies or NGOs. Of course, civil society are non-government organizations, because non-governmental organizations are the representatives of the people. So if you wanted to reach a school, it would be easier through a non-government organization. If you wanted to reach a government, it will be easier through a non-government organization, because they have all these network and they understand the issues better. They are not going to sugarcoat anything. They tell you as it is. If the problem is plastic pollution in a river, they tell you this is the extent of plastic pollution in the river. May not get so much information go directly into a school, because there are some say red tape, or information the flow of information has its own way in established organizations, especially schools or such kind of organization. But in non-government organization, information just comes out. You don't need to apply for anything. You just sit down with a civil society organization member. They tell you as it is. So I think the best way to address some things is going directly to the civil society organizations, or what I call non-governmental organizations.
Thank you for that. Oli, you are going to take the next question. I can see that we have another question there. You are going to take it. But before you take that, let me ask this question before we go on. James, you talked about one of the problems that is facing the regulation of plastic pollution presently in Kenya. And I think I really spot that there's imports of those things from neighboring countries that has not banned, these plastic bags. So I just want to ask, we all know that to call plastic pollution now, it goes beyond a national or regional, national issue or a local issue. It has to be transnational, transregional, and even up to a global level. So what are you doing, to educate your colleagues in other parts of Africa, like the neighboring countries, to key into this laudable project of curbing plastic pollution? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, plastic pollution is not just a national problem. It's not a Kenyan problem per se. It's not a Nigerian problem per se. It's first is a national problem, then becomes a regional problem, it becomes a continental problem, then it's a global problem. It's a big problem that we are in, and to address it, therefore, we need to work with everybody, as I have mentioned. We have to work with scientists, we have to work with other civil society organizations. And I have been working with people from different walks of life. I have worked with a Zambian environmental activist. I'm working with the Free Property organization, and Free Property has been lobbying for ban on single-use or problematic single-use plastics in the region, that is East Africa. And this year, they will be delivering a petition to the East Africa Legislative Assembly to ban those kind of single-use plastics that cannot be recycled and which are only used once and then thrown away. So generally, I would say the issue of plastic pollution problem needs to be tackled at a more global level by everybody through collaborations with other civil society members, with international organizations like the UN, with the experts like you, the scientists, and with other governments.
Thank you. Oli, you can go ahead with the next question.
Yes, there are two questions. One in the chat, which I will, it's quite long, so I hope I get it correct. This is from, and please raise your hand if I've said your name wrong, but Van Melayo has asked, thank you for the interesting presentation. It's really important for researchers to connect with journalists and policymakers. However, not all journalists or policymakers are interested in collaborating with researchers. Can you advise on strategies on how to collaborate with journalists in order to disseminate research findings?
I think I need to look at that. It's quite a long one. Can you? I think, of course, as you have mentioned, not all journalists are interested in this issue of plastic pollution and environmental conservation. Like in Kenya, journalists are concerned mostly about what is happening every day. They're concerned about political stories because people want to see what is happening. People want to see where there is push and shove, you know, and the environmental stories are boring stories. Nobody wants to hear about plastic pollution every day. Nobody wants to hear about forests being cut down. People want to hear drama. People want to hear, you know, those rough things that are happening in the world. And when I was in journalism school, I remember hearing the lecturer say, where it bleeds, it reads, you know, so that tells you the kind of training we got, that we need to expect more bad things. But I think that is not the way to go. But how to change that? We need to change how journalists perceive the environment by continually bringing them to the table. Whenever we have meetings, we invite journalists so that we understand. But I also think it is important for journalism schools to have, say, a unit or what I would call a major. So journalists can major on environmental stories so that we have environmental journalists. Most countries do not have that. I think it's just a few countries where we have people who have studied environmental journalism and they're able to write and report it, you know, comprehensively. So I think the best way to deal with that is, you know, going to schools and talking to institutions, telling them they need to have departments where they can train environmental journalists who will focus on one topic alone, which is environmental reporting. I hope I've answered your question or his question.
Thank you. Oli, you can take the next question. I think we have another question there.
Yes, we have another question in the Q&A section from Henk. Have you experienced pushback during any of your initiatives?
Yes, I have experienced pushback. I was threatened some time ago. I did not know who threatened me because they sent me a very amorphous message, a threat that came in a way. They knew that the person threatening me knew I had a wife and I had kids. So they told me, we know you have you love your family, but now you're too much into us, and they had some other things. So I really feared, and basically that is because of what I was doing and what I was involved in. And of course, in my life as an activist, whenever a journalist, even your question, asking whether I have faced any threats or faced any, you know, anything that could potentially cause me to be worried, you know, that puts me at a very difficult position. I have been asked by journalists and they keep asking me, have you been threatened? The question itself, you know, keeps me very conscious of what I could go through, because they remind me what you are doing can potentially harm you. There are people, they say I'm stepping on, or I'm stepping on their toes. Because when you're talking about banning of plastics, you know, companies are going to be closed down. People's source of livelihood will be affected. but of course for general good. So those are issues that really keep me conscious about what I'm doing. And sometimes if I think about it too much, I get worried. So sometimes I don't want to think about it. But of course, these questions will keep coming. Journalists will keep asking me. And when they ask me, I get more conscious and begin to worry what would happen to me. Sometimes I write a tweet, before sending it, I look at it and think about it twice, and then I just delete it because anything could happen. Just the other day, I think 2 weeks ago, a Kenyan environmentalist, her name is Joanna Stuchberry, was murdered in cold blood. And she was murdered basically because of her raising issues on conservation of a forest, because there are people, private developers, who are interested in cutting part of that forest and making it their own property. So environmentalists in Kenya and everywhere in the world are living in fear because of what they say, because of the things they fight for. Fighting for environment can be a very challenging task, but we do it because of the love and passion. But of course, we can always go through some very dangerous situations.
Thank you very much, James, for that. It's not only you also, I think researchers in plastic pollution research also face some pushback. You know, when you have to apply for funding, it's not most of these people that will be ready to support you because they know that you definitely come back to them. So, but once we continue to collaborate together, we continue to educate our people, which is very key. I think we are going to arrive, you know, at the best solution. That's what I believe. Yeah. So I don't know, Oli, do we have any other question before we ask to make his concluding remark?
I believe scientists need to be supported to do microplastic research, especially because this is a growing problem. People do not understand what is microplastic first. People do not understand what microplastics can do to their bodies. You know, personally, I have read a lot of research papers saying we are consuming microplastics, but no research has said what those microplastics can do to you. If I am eating a credit size card of a microplastic every week, how does it affect me? You know, those are the things we really want to find out. And I am hoping that scientists will get the funding they need so that they can do more researches to help us understand the effects of this plastic that we are taking in with our food and water and in the air.
Thank you very much, James. Yeah, I think we don't have any other question again, right? Oh, okay. Yeah.
There is one question now in the Q&A.
Okay.
Again from Henk. I would like to suggest that the artist James mentioned could perhaps be invited to give a presentation to this forum. I've written, thanks for the suggestion, Henk. I have written down the artist's name, and James, I probably will be in touch for more information and potentially bring them on to the talk. Thanks
yeah, that would be very nice, and possibly next time you could also invite Bahati Mayoma, the Tanzanian microplastic researcher, to explain more about his research studies in Lake Victoria. I think he's the only African doing these works, especially in East Africa, and it would be very meaningful for him to share out his study.
I've also written down their names, so I will definitely be in touch for that, because we haven't had anyone from Tanzania. So that would be really nice. Yeah, I don't know. There aren't any other questions, Fedara, so.
Yeah, so if there's no other question, I think we need to thank our guests very well. James, you've been so wonderful. We appreciate your contribution to this forum, and we are hoping that from time to time we keep in touch. You know, we'll be ready to give interview, you know, to talk about what we are doing in our various labs, especially across Africa. You know, there's some of us that are presently at home, and we're also collaborating with our colleagues that are outside the continent, you know, to make sure that we get, empirical data right from this region that we can also use as evidence to help the policymakers to make their decisions, and also to get our people aware about the impact of plastic pollution in our environment. So I want to thank all our participants. Next month is another time we'll be coming together. And please, if you are working on any aspect of plastic pollution in Africa, we also want to have you on this platform so that you can showcase what you are doing. So please just get in touch either with any member of the, okay.
Just before we close, there was a question if we could just share your details, James. I don't know if you don't mind just popping that into the chat. I think they're hoping for your email address, because I did share the Twitter account and your website.
So I think that's fine.
Doing it now, and thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure talking to the experts. We need more experts to share about what is happening in the environment. And it is you people who can be believed by governments. It is from your credible research studies that governments can believe. They won't believe activists like us. They say we are people who just make noise. We are rabble rousers. We are extremists. They say all those things. But definitely working with the research findings from scientists, I think they will take our work more seriously.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, thanks very much. And thanks everybody for being part of this month's Club Talk. Next month, we are going to have another person on this platform. Oli, do you have the information? Can you just give us a brief or,
I will be sharing an email in the next week with information on the next talk, as well as the recording for this will be put on the YouTube channel. But yes, that's all I have from my side.
All right, so thanks everybody. James has already put his Twitter handle and his email, as well as his website on the chat room. You can copy that before you log out, so that you can have it. And if, in case you're unable to have that, you can get in touch with any member of the PAN-microplast team. You'll be willing to give that to you at any time, because to solve plastic pollution problem, all of us just need to work together. Yeah. So thanks everyone. We hope to see you next month for another time. See you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.